Hi, I'm Marty Nemko. I want to talk with you about being solo, living a kind of a solo existence. And you might think it'd be a little odd for me to talk about that, in that I've been with my wife for 49 years, and yet I have had a largely solo existence. And one piece of obvious evidence is that my wife and I live separately. We see each other every night. We live in two separate places. We spend a couple hours together, and then we separate. But there's many more examples. And of course, what I'm sharing with you is merely one perspective, one person's life experience. But perhaps because of that, it'll be at least entertaining, and it's certainly honest, and there's no second or third hand citations. So maybe if you are somebody who is not that social, or maybe wants a little vindication for your solohood, if that's a word, this may provide it, or some tips. And maybe even if you would like to, just because we're told that man is a social animal, Homo sapiens is a social animal, doesn't mean that we all are. There are individual differences, although that's a word that we don't like to talk about these days. We're all in, all together, all in, we, etc. But really we are all quite different in many, many ways. So for what it's worth, this is one guy's life. I'll be 72 in June. One guy's life of a largely solo existence, and I think it's fair to say that the title of this succeeding solo is perhaps apt. Okay, so first of all, my childhood. One of my very earliest memories was being in the first grade, and Norman Talley, I can even mention his name. I Googled him just before starting to do this, and apparently he was convicted to, I think it was 240 months in prison for being a crack dealer. So I feel a little vindicated because he used to beat the crap out of me after school every day because I had a big mouth, but I had very small fists, and I'm verbally assertive and physically reticent. And then there were two others who would do that also, the Piscatelli brothers. I think one was Michael Piscatelli, the other I think was Anthony Piscatelli. And they would, they say, you can beat me inside, like in the classroom, but we're going to beat you outside. And they used to crack the shit out of my head, and they would give me noogies to my head, and I would be crying, and I'd run home to my mother. Anyway, those early experiences, which are among my most vivid, started to, maybe it was genetic initially, but it certainly was encouraged by the environment of not being popular. I'm always been too intense for most people. Too assertive. I somehow, for some God knows reason, I assumed that if you've got abilities, you should show them off. So I used to, blurt out answers in class. I would show off playing the piano, and kids hated that, of course. So for the combination of genetic and environmental reasons, I started to develop a solo existence very early. So my hobbies were playing the piano. I like planting seeds, which I do to this day. I practice basketball by myself. I love playing ball, but I was always feeling crappy that the kids, when they chose up sides, even though I'm not a bad ball player. In fact, I played baseball in college 4 years. I was usually among the last chosen. It was their way of giving the finger to Marty Nemko because I was just not a kid who knew how to fit in. So all these things conspired, the perfect storm, as they say, to make me be ever more solo. And that was true in college. I wanted to belong, and I rushed a bunch of fraternities, and I got rejected from them all. And this was during the late 60s when everybody was protesting, and nobody was going to fraternities. And even, I remember one fraternity, they had 39 rushes, and they gave 36 bids. That means 39 people wanted to be in the fraternity. 36 gave an offer. Of course, I was one of the three. So, and with girls, I really wanted to date, but I was always awkward, always insecure, always nervous. And so girls didn't like me. I also started to lose my hair early. And so that was not exactly a turn on to most women. Girls, women, whatever they called them back then. Anyway, so more and more and more and more solo life. So let me tell you a little bit about how how can I in the world call this successfully solo? And yet I do believe that while I was not a happy kid, and I'm not a happy adult. I don't think I'm hardwired to be a happy guy. But I'm reasonably contented given who I am. And I've done that largely solo. And the more solo my activities, the better. Take writing. I write a lot. I've written now, 14 books and well over 5,000 articles. And no, over 4,000, over 4,500 for sure. And those are solo activity. I tried co-authoring a book once with somebody, and I was just frustrated again and again and again. And even when I'm writing solo, the books that I wrote for prestigious publishers like Random House, which is a division of Random House called 10-Speed Press, and then John Wiley and Sons, the Dummies people, very competent people, and yet I was always frustrated, always in arguments with them. I always thought my way was better. So I've ended up lately, my last half dozen books have been self-published, where I have control. Being alone works well for me, and just maybe it works better for you. I hosted a radio show for 30 years on an NPR station in San Francisco. It's really quite solo. You're doing your thing. I very often was just talking to the microphone, give little talks like I'm doing with you, or I would take calls, but I was there in control. I was able to control the discussion. I was considered the expert. It's the same thing. My main career is I am a career counselor. And there again, while I try my best to listen very carefully and respectfully ask questions, I'm still in a measure of control. I'm largely solo. It's not like going to parties or things or being on teams where I fail. When I've been on a team, even on a panel, I'm faced with the dilemma of, on the one hand, talking too much, dominating, or feeling I got to put duct tape all over my mouth and really being frustrated. So I turn down panel things. I love to speak. I've done a lot of keynote speaking. That's fine. Again, solo. But I've done much better when I've been in by myself. Again, this is really not about me, but I'm trying to share as much candor as I can. And as you're listening, I would invite you to ask yourself, is there anything in this, not in toto, I'm not asking you to be Marty Nemko, but is there something in this that is relevant to you and how you want to live your life, maybe at least in partial defiance of the conventional wisdom that humans are social animals? Because sometimes even extroverts need recycling time, but feel guilty about wanting alone time. I've had some clients tell me that they're extroverts, but they feel a little self-conscious about wanting alone time. Like, so they come home after work and their romantic partner's there wanting your attention and whatever, and they just want to go into their man cave, or I guess there's a woman cave, or whatever it is. So please, I'm hoping you'll find at least little nuggets of this that you may want to insert into your life, if only as a spice rather than as the main course. Relationships. As I said at the beginning, I've been married with my wife for 49 years, 46 years married, 3 years before that living in sin, as they used to say. And we do not have a marriage made in heaven, but it does work reasonably here on earth. And one of the keys is that indeed we've been able to afford to live in two separate places. I live in the Bay Area, and Barbara lives in Napa. And every night, I don't mind driving. I listen to audiobooks on the way up. It's a 45-minute drive. I drive up there. We spend 2 hours together doing the things we enjoy doing together, just hanging out, or playing gin rummy, or playing with the dog, or taking a hike, watching a movie, and then we go back. So we do the things that work well together in these brief little snippets. And then we go home. I'm more comfortable sleeping in my own bed. Very unconventional. But I must say that a number of our friends say, really, you do that? Does that work pretty well for you there? It's like they're curious about it. I occasionally want to see friends, and my wife is more social than I am, so I do some accommodating, and we see friends because she wants to. But I love my solo time. My solo time is mainly spent, in recreation. If I'm not writing or seeing clients, I'm breeding roses. I hybridize roses very seriously. I have a couple on the market. I have a number under test with major rose companies. I play the piano, as I do for you. Again, I've made hundreds of these YouTube videos and podcasts. Again, I'm in control. It's a solo thing. That really works well for me. I play weird things that nobody likes, but again, I'm not here to be trying to be social or please others. I like Barry Manilow. And so I just, yesterday played a medley of Barry Manilow songs on the piano. If you Google Marty Nemko and Barry Manilow, you'll see the YouTube video of it. I love to garden. In addition to my hybridizing roses, I love to garden. I was out just now in between clients. I was planting a rose bush, and I love digging in the ground and doing. But I did that myself. I wouldn't ever garden with somebody. I like to hike. I hike vigorously every day. Most of the people I see hiking around this lake called the Lafayette Reservoir, they're in pairs, in trios. I'm solo, well, except with my doggie. I'm happiest solo. And it sounds silly, but there's no compromise. I hike exactly at the speed I want, exactly at the moment I want, when I need the break. I'm not having a compromise. And that is a joy of being able to feel comfortable being solo. And that's something I'm going to ask you. A lot of people say that the reason they're so social is they don't feel comfortable being alone. So it's just a question for you. Do you need to take a couple of deep breaths and be try to get more comfortable with your solohood, listening to the music exactly as you want? If you're not having somebody who is your bed partner, feeling grateful for the ability to have the bed exactly as you like, the pillow as you like, the blanket as you like, the temperature as you like, without an alarm clock or with the alarm clock set for the time you want rather than compromising with your partner, which would wake you up. So let's take just 5 seconds. You're not supposed to have what's called dead air, but let's take 5 seconds and think about if there's just one thing from what I've shared with you in complete candor about what I'm calling succeeding solo, or that you want to adopt. Think about things that you do in your work life. Think about what you do in your personal life, including relationships, including recreation. Is there one thing at least one thing from what I've said here, that you want to do more solo than social? In any event, I thank you for watching. I'm Marty Nemko. I always welcome your thumbs up and accept your thumbs down. I always look forward to your comments, and especially like it if you hit the share button below. Share on my social media, on your social media, so that my efforts can have broader impact. And I am flattered if you choose to subscribe to my channel, which usually consists of self-help advice like this. But as I mentioned, occasionally I intersperse my piano playing, and I read other people's work. And in any event, I do thank you for watching. Because this is a podcast. I always like to end all my podcasts with my very, very favorite quote that may be more important today than ever in our era of the 3 C's: censure, censor, and cancel. Reminding me, frankly, of Stalin's censorship and Nazi Germany's censorship. My quote that I love is, "We find comfort among those who agree with us, growth among those who don't."